My goal in this video is to demonstrate in detail how to install and waterproof your shower curb. So if you're a contractor, some things might be boring for you, but if you're a homeowner or DIY person, you will definitely benefit from it. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment the video. Hope you enjoy it. Alright, once the shower drain is installed, you can measure the distance from the edge of the drain to the nearest wall, and then transfer it to the other side. That way you have the same distance from both sides of the drain and the drain stays in the center. Then measure the distance from the wall to your mark and then transfer it to the both sides of your shower. Once you make your mark, you can connect them with a straight edge or some kind of ruler. And this is going to be your inside of your shower, and you're gonna install the 2x4 on the other side of this line. Another very important step once you draw your line is to make sure your shower is nice and square. You want to take a big square and just put it against the wall and then see how well it lines up with that line you just drew. And you want to do it on both sides of your shower. And your long length of your square should line up exactly with your line. If it doesn't, that means one corner is off, and you have to check the rest of the walls to make sure everything is nice and square. If your square wobbles a lot, that means that corner is off a little. So if your line is nice and square, you can actually measure the distance for between both walls, and that will be your length of your 2x4 for the curb. You always want to use the pressure treated wood for the shower curb, especially on the concrete floor. In order to sink the concrete nails a little bit deeper, I'm going to use a 1-inch drill bit, and I'm going to drill 5 holes that are 1/2 inch deep. At this point you want to clean the area very nicely because we're going to use the liquid nails underneath that 2x4. So you're going to vacuum everything and make sure there's no dust. And then basically spread some liquid nails in the area where the 2x4 is going to be. And gently place the 2x4 over it. Alright, once you set the 2x4 over your liquid nail, use a big square again just to make sure everything is nice and square before you start nailing it. To install the 2x4, I'm going to use 2.5-inch ram set nails with a 22 caliber single shot tool. This is a very basic tool that I use a couple times a year, but it will do the job. In case you need one, the links are in the description. First, I sink the nails all the way down to the concrete. It makes it a little bit easier when you're working your tool. Once you load your tool, you can just tap it with a hammer. Most likely you have to do it twice for every nail. So make sure that 2x4 holds very nicely. And if you're on a job site, you might want to notify people around you. There's gonna be a couple loud bangs. Sometimes people overreact when they hear a couple pops. Another very important feature when you're building your shower is to have a 2x4 on both sides of your curb that will line up with it. There's few reasons that this will help you when you're working with your shower. Number one, when you're installing your rubber liner, it actually helps to fold it a little bit better when you have a 2x4 lining up with the curb. Another way, you have nice and clean transition between the cement board and the drywall when you're working on the bathroom like this. And also when you're installing your shower doors, you get solid support behind your tile to support the weight of the door. Once they have the first 2x4 for the curb installed and the 2x4s on both sides of it, then I usually build the pre-slope. To finish up the curb, we're gonna cut 2 more pieces of wood and we're gonna stack them on top of the other. Before installing the second piece of 2x4, just use a measuring tape and measure both sides of the shower to make sure nothing has shifted. And using several 3-inch screws, you can mount them securely. Alright, so we have 3 2x4s stacked. That's about 4.5 inches high. We're gonna add another 1/2 inch for the cement board and 1/4 inch for the slope, plus another 1/2 inch for a tile or 3/4, depends on the curb you use. So your curb is gonna end up being about 6 inches high or so. But from the inside of the shower, it won't be as high because you're gonna have a 3/4 inch for your pre-slope, then another 2 inches for your shower pen, and then a 1/2 inch to 3/4 for your tile. So that way it will be about 2 inches on the inside, so it won't be as high on the outside. After installing 2x4s, I'll coat them with the solid and thick coat waterproofing membrane. In this case, I'm using Mapei Aqua Defense product. So the entire curb is gonna be coated with it from the inside, top, and the outside. And this is your first layer of waterproofing on the curb. Once the curb is dry, you can actually install your rubber liner and build your shower pen. And that will be in the future videos because I will get into details how to build the pre-slope, build the pen, and install the rubber liner. So you have a better idea how it's getting done. But in this video, we're only gonna concentrate on the curb. So once the shower pen is installed, then you can actually wrap it with the cement boards, and we'll get to it now. Now I'm going to show you the proper way to install the cement boards and then how to waterproof your curb. First, we're going to cut and measure the outside piece of the curb. Alright, the first thing when you measure your curb, you're gonna check how level it is. Because the concrete might be out of level up to 1/2 inch on the 4 or 5 feet length, and your curb might be that much off. So first you want to place the level on top of it and make sure it's perfectly level. So if your shower curb is level, you're gonna measure from the floor to the bottom of your level and add 1/4 inch. One thing you want to make sure when you're cutting your cement board, that your inside and the outside piece, it has to have that edge guard on it. So it has to be one continuous solid piece of cement board. You don't want to use two smaller pieces because it will be harder to set the level. Alright, once you cut the first piece of cement board, it should look like this. So you have that nice smooth finished edge on top of it. And you want to place the level on top of it and make sure it's nice and level. And that cement board should stick out about 1/4 inch above the wood. If your curb is slightly off, you want to put the screw on the very bottom on the high side. Then place the level on top of it and start raising that board to the level. Once you have the level, you just put the screw on the opposite side of that cement board, and that should hold it in place. To properly secure it, you want to have screws every 6 inches, and you want to have specialized screws for the cement boards. To measure the inside piece, you want to measure from the edge of the curb to the shower pan and subtract 1/4 inch from it, because you don't want to have a direct contact with the shower pan. It all depends how thick your shower pan is, but that piece usually ranges from 1.5 to 2 inches. So you want to make sure you cut it on that protected side of the cement board. That way it makes it a lot stronger. Next few minutes of this video is going to be very important because I will demonstrate how to properly waterproof that curb. When installing this small piece of cement board, you have to make sure you're using special waterproof cement board screws. And you want to place them at least 1/2 inch to 3/4 from the top edge of it, and about 4 to 5 inches from each end of it. And you want to have them at least 10 inches apart. My main goal in this video is to show you as many details as possible so you can visualize the whole process better. Because normally I wouldn't pre-install those screws like that. I do just basically for show so you can see how far they should be apart and where they should be mounted. Now we get into a very messy part of it, which is waterproofing that piece. First, I'm going to waterproof small area where the shower pen meets the liner, so there's no direct contact between board and the pen. And I'm going to coat that entire cement board with a thick layer of waterproofing membrane. By completely waterproofing this entire piece, you will prevent any moisture being absorbed into it. And you will create a watertight seal around the screw that holds it in place. When I install it, I mount it flush with the edge of the curb. But keep in mind, if your shower curb is out of level and you had to adjust the outside piece of cement board, you have to do the same thing on the inside as well. So you have to use your level to straighten it out, or if your shower pan is in perfect level, it should show you how much your curb is out of level. Once I secure it properly, I will coat it with the waterproofing membrane again. You want to make sure that this piece is completely covered with the waterproofing membrane from all four sides of it, and there is a small gap between the shower pan and actual piece. Also, you want to coat the small area of the shower pan in case if they were ever come in contact, because the most important thing that you don't want any moisture being absorbed from that pan into the curb. And that was usually the most common failure, because most contractors will install that small curb piece on the inside all the way down to the rubber liner, and then they will build the shower pan, and that would absorb a lot of moisture, and that moisture would travel to the most of the time regular screw that would rust out, and the water would just start getting out of it. Alright, once your little piece is coated with waterproofing membrane, you can actually use the thin set to build up the difference on your curb, because as you remember, we installed the outside piece 1/4 inch higher. That would create as a slope underneath the tile, so in case water would ever penetrate that tile, you have waterproof area underneath that slope towards the shower. Once the entire curb is nice and solid, I can install the top piece. To better bond the cement board to the curb, you can use also a layer of adhesive underneath the cement board. You can use an 1/8 or 1/4 inch trowel, or just spread it on the entire width of that cement board and just glue it to the surface. Otherwise, you can make the tins a little bit thinner and just pack it nicely and solid on that curb, and that would stick up pretty well to it as well. Most important is you want that cement board to overhang both pieces on the inside and outside. And I usually cut it 1/8 of an inch wider, so I can pack more thin set on top of that inside shower piece. If you want, you can add a few screws to the outside edge of that curb to secure it better. But if you don't want to puncture the liner, the thin set underneath will bond it very well. Now I'm going to coat the entire curb with a layer of thin set that will help me bond the mesh to it. Because mesh is 10 inches wide and it's going to overlap the entire curb from the inside, top and outside. It's a pretty messy process to install this mesh, but it will strengthen the entire curb. You can buy this mesh in any stucco supply store. They come in different colors, width and thicknesses. The only problem is that you have to buy the whole roll of it. That costs over $100. But if there will be a demand, I might start selling it in the future. Most common places I use this mesh is over the pre-slope, shower curb and the shower pan. I also use it over plywood or the cement boards whenever I need the extra strength. Once you install the mesh and coat it with a thin set, you can use a wet sponge to smooth out the surface. Once your curb is nice and smooth, you can coat it with a waterproofing membrane. I will use 4-inch paintbrush to apply it. Sometimes waterproofing membrane will shrink and crack, that's why you have to apply several coats to make it 100% waterproof. As you can see, the entire curb is nicely waterproof. The most important thing when you're building your shower is to install and waterproof your curb first, before installing any cement boards on the wall. This is a very common mistake that can cause your shower to fail. Once you overlap the curb with the wall boards and the tile, you will have at least 1-inch surface under that it's sloped and waterproof. As you can see, we got about 1/4 inch of slope on that curb that prevents any water accumulating on its surface. But from experience, I can tell you that less than 5% of the shower that I replaced had any waterproofing on it. A lot of contractors don't use any waterproofing membrane when they're building the showers because it's a very messy process to apply it and it takes extra time for it to dry, so it slows down the entire process. So they don't even mention it to the customer that it's supposed to be used. In my next video, I'll show you how to tile curb like this. I hope you learned something new. Please like, subscribe and share the video. And come back to see more because I will show in details how to properly remodel your bathroom and shower. Thanks for watching.